Thank you. So one of the biggest challenges about this, what basically said, so basically I got sent to 17 months for bank fraud. Back in 2005 through 2008, I purchased a total of 5 homes. And the idea was I was trying to be a writer. I was going to school at Sac State. I didn't want to try to find investors to fund my writing career. I didn't want to have to go back to a regular job and do the grind thing. So I figured getting homes was probably the best way to do it. Met a loan officer who I won't mention his name, and he helped me get a total of 5 homes. The way he did it was he altered tax documents and bank statements to make it seem as if I could afford the homes. He also had me write skeletal letters saying that I was living in one home but kind of moving to the other one. And when he felt needed, he had filled in the meat of the letter as he needed to. And he also, bank statements, right, so once we did all that, ended up getting the homes. In 2007 through 2008, the houses, I couldn't afford the houses anymore, and the houses went belly up and into foreclosure. So basically what happened was I took the money out of the equity of each home and put it in a bank account and used the money from the houses, the equity, to pay for the homes, in addition to the rental income that I had. I was paying out maybe $8,000 to $12,000 a month in housing expenses, and I was getting back somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000. The $6,000 I put from all the houses, and the equity of the houses, was supposed to help me get through that tough time until I was able to get more money out of the houses or refinance. Of course, I wasn't able to refinance. Once the houses went into foreclosure, I moved into an apartment and eventually moved into my parents' house because I couldn't afford living on my own. Once I got to a restaurant called La Provence in Roseville, and I was staying in my parents' house, the government came to my job and asked me questions about the incident. I told the government every single thing that happened, thinking that I was explaining what happened during that time, just being honest. Turns out, they were after me. They were contemplating making me a mastermind of a real estate scheme. But because I cooperated, they decided to give me a plea agreement, which was 27 months. Because of my activities in the community, the fact that I got a bachelor's degree during this whole time, the prosecution recommended to the judge that my sentence be reduced from 27 months to 17 months. The judge agreed with the prosecution, which is how my sentence was 17 months. That 17 months broke down to be 12 months inside Herlong Prison Camp, 3 months at the Oakland Halfway House, 2 months reduced for good behavior or good time. So while I was inside the prison, I learned that prison isn't as crazy or insane as it really is. Matter of fact, it was like a big old detention. One massive room, almost like this, and you had 4 sections closed off for housing areas. Along the side of each wall, you had TVs, and you had rooms in each room that had TVs as well. In fact, let me read you this passage real quick. It was one massive room with bunks and lockers for all the inmates. There were 136 inmates living in this room, sometimes less, because inmates would transfer to other prisons or go home. The dorm was full of inmates who self-surrendered and inmates who transferred or worked their way down, as inmates put it, from other institutions. The dorm was divided by the walkways and an area we call the freeway into different living sections. Each section had 4 living quarters, each having 2 lockers, a twin-size bunk bed, and a desk. Surrounding the living sections were 4 televisions which were mounted at the highest point of the walls. In addition to these televisions, there were 3 smaller rooms, each with a television. The televisions were controlled by inmates, usually the ones who were in the room first, or the inmate who was there, who had the highest, who was there the longest. In this area, we also had stuff over here where I was able to write, and also when I was tired of being in that room, I had to leave and go to a library called the Leisure Library. Basically, it was set up like little, you had 5 little desks, and I just sat there, put my headphones on, and just wrote. I wrote the journal that eventually became Subprime Felon. I wrote rough drafts for 2 novels, different blog posts, and different sort of business ideas I thought may work out in the future, which haven't quite panned out yet. So let me stop right here. Can I take a few questions anybody want to ask? No? No? Sir.
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
My name is Ed Johnson. I am one of his mentors. I am an area director for an organization called Toastmasters International. Some of you may have heard of it. We deal with public speaking and leadership. And I just wanted to provide my support for this young man today. I'm also one of his mentors. He is an outstanding individual. For him to chronicle what he has done in this outstanding novel, which I've read, is a testament to his fortitude and his ability to take a wrong and turn it into a right. We all make mistakes. I've made them, you've made them, some large, some small. But it's what we do after we make our mistakes that determines how we are as people, as men and women. This is a very fine and outstanding young man. I'm very pleased to be his mentor. I'm very glad to call him friend, so I just want to provide my support.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Very kind words, thank you. But the thing about prison camp was, it was funny, like when I was in college, I thought that people in prison had it kind of easy. You know, I thought they get like all the good education. I thought that the government paid the inmates before they paid the regular people. As it turns out, I couldn't get a master's degree at Herlong Prison Camp because I got there during the fall semester, and in order for me to get a master's degree, I had to come during the summer semester or the spring semester when they were allowing new people, new students. I'm sorry, that was for the bachelor's degree. For the master's degree, I would have to ask my mom to do some legwork to find out how it was possible to get a master's degree, and once she got an idea of how to do it, I would take that to the CEO in charge of education. If he approved of it, then I could possibly get a master's degree. Sounds complicated? That's why I didn't do it. I was only going to be there for a year, and I figured if I really want a master's degree, I'll wait till I get home. I still haven't pursued it, honestly. But as far as the other program, let me read this passage and I'll explain more. I felt the programming was about meeting the admins and CEOs' quota and proving to the American public that the prison was attempting to help the inmates while putting the blame for inmates' post-prison success squarely on the inmate. A lot of the times, inmates didn't learn anything at their jobs or schooling, yet they were forced to go because they had to prove that they were going to change. Also, the jobs helped keep the camp and the FCI functional and self-sustaining by using cheap labor to repair equipment and feed inmates and avoid the high cost of professionals such as repairmen and caterers. Also, GED classes were a way to get additional funding for the camp. The more inmates in GED classes, the more the federal government would fund the camp. I'm not sure how or where the money was given, however. We had one of the programming things we had to do was called threshold training, or the threshold programming. The theory behind it was they were going to give you a handout, 8th grade level, and you were supposed to go through it and it was supposed to teach the inmate what it was like to come home, what it was like to build relationships, what it was like to deal with your kid again, what it was like to deal with people in the real world. The inmates that took the class complained that they learned absolutely nothing from it. They also complained that the seal in charge, who was also the chaplain in charge of the religious services, more or less rambled and just talked about how good he was, everything he did right. Other inmates would start rambling on and on about their personal gripes about prison camp, to a point where it was more of a 2-hour discussion about what they want to change about the camp, not so much what they would need to do to go home. A lot of the inmates in that space were down for 5 or 6 years prior, sometimes even upwards of 10. They didn't seem to have the know-how or want to change because they're so institutionalized. This is all the life that they knew. Also, the programming, which was going to work, working in food service, the powerhouse, learning a trade in GMC, a lot of inmates just sat there. There was a place called GM6, General Maintenance Department 6. The theory was you go there, learn how to build truck, or learn how to fix your car, or learn how to fix the little maintenance stuff around the camp. You had so many inmates in that place that there wasn't enough work for everyone to do anything with. So inmates just sat there and played cards. Some inmates literally went to sleep, clocked in and went to sleep. Some inmates felt that they wasn't getting paid enough, so they didn't work that hard. The most I made at prison camp was $83 a month. Some people at GM6 made somewhere between $10 and $15 a month. If they really liked you and you had a lot of seniority, you might have made $100. And considering that $100 at prison camp was balling. That's probably you guys making $5,000 a month. But the inmates still felt like they wasn't getting paid enough, so they didn't work that hard. And it wasn't like, they can get in like hell lot of trouble. Some of them were so institutionalized that they got sent to the hole, they didn't care. If they got sent to a higher institution, they didn't care. They had more fun there anyway. The white collar criminals such as myself, we were a little more intimidated. So when we got to the job, we did try to do as hard, we worked as hard as we could because we didn't want to go to the hole. Prison camp was already hell enough for me. What I learned at the job, where food service or working at the powerhouse trying to get a trade, did not translate to the real world. I think one person in the 5 years the federal camp was open got a GED. All the other ones just basically went there and hung out. So, want a question?
Yeah. So, with all of these elements going around, and you are seeing these inmates getting sent to the hole, how do you then in turn keep your mind blocked off from becoming that caged animal? Because that sounds like a difficult task to me. Like, how are you able to avoid the caged animal syndrome?
The first day I was there, I felt like a caged animal because once I got there and I realized that I'm actually in prison. I felt like I was like the lowest stereotypes of stereotypes. And as I said in the book, it was the first time I felt like property. I can only imagine what my forefathers actually felt like. But for some reason, when I get that low, I snap out of it and shoot back up. It happens every single time. So when I was that low feeling like property, I remember a lie that I told you, I told my parents, I told all my friends. This is actually a blessing because once I go to prison camp, I can read, write, and go crazy. And once I'm there, I can turn my life around and be a good writer. When I got as low as I low, that joke became my new reality. So I focused on turning this into an advantage. I said this is a prime opportunity to get my writing career, my life in order. That's how I wasn't a caged animal, because I made a purpose out of it. Even though it took me a while to believe it, I made a purpose out of it. So the programming not working, the GED class is not working, and the job's not working out in my favor. It almost didn't matter because now I can focus, instead of focusing on what's not working, I can focus on what I know will work. I can, and put all my energy into that. That answer your question?
Yes.
Sir.
Well, I have a question or a comment, maybe on the lighter side. So I have
Mhm.
friends that have been to jail and they tell me the system is meant to break you. So do you share in your book? I'm going to read the book, I haven't gotten it yet. You know, can you share a story or anything that happened that, you know, kind of made you realize that this is going to break me? And also, can you share a lighter story about, you know, what happened and made you, you know, like, okay, now I'm looking to get out of here. So share something like that with us.
Okay. While I look for that story, what was your question?
If you were saying, kind of piggybacking off his question, you were saying that you have to kind of avoid or fight the caged animal syndrome. Did you find that people around you were influenced by that, or were they kind of hopeless, or because the picture that I'm getting from your description is that they didn't know any better. The system isn't necessarily designed to create healthy citizens once they come out. We're convinced that that's what they're supposed to be, but that's not what's really happening. So did you find anyone that was sort of influenced by your drive to get out and become better?
Okay, I think I can answer both your questions at the same time. Yes.
And my question is, okay, you got there and you were like in shock, like you said. Was there any, like not a support group or anything, like a group that you would talk to that, you know, I know they have a little support group. I don't know if they do or not, that's what I'm asking. Was there a group or did you have a couple of buddies or somebody that you could bounce these things off of and to just help each other?
I hung out with the black. I think I'm answering all three of your questions at the same time. I hung out with the blacks for the most part. There's one guy named Ali. He was quote the head, the leader of us, and he always tried to pick me up. Wouldn't let me, get too low. He was the one that reminded me, like, you have a degree, you have a talent. So you don't have to do what you guys are going to do. You can, because he saw me every day reading and writing in the library. So he was like, yeah, just focus on what you're going to do. All these guys that are sitting around here watching BET 12 hours a day and watching Judge Judy, don't worry about them. Focus on your book, focus on your writing. There's another guy, his name was Isaac. He met me the first day and he said, you know what? I could tell you're really smart. We need somebody like that at the Powerhouse. Powerhouse is where you learn a trade, borders, HVAC, and how to repair all the machines throughout the camp. He wanted me to go there and learn how to do the boilers and work on the waters, test the water material on it, because he said, you know what, I need positive black people over there. I'm the only black person over there. So you over there, that'll show us that, we're not as dumb, and and plus he wanted to help other brothers out, okay? Matter of fact, I was super close to him, so we always kind of, jokingly bumped heads, and I ended up being like a little brother to him at times. The yoga instructor was my bunkie, and I also had like a little brother thing going on with him as well. He's the one that mentored me as far as doing business ideas. He said, find a way to turn your passion into a business. When you go home, he said, you like doing fiction writing, figure out how to make $1 million out of that. He gave me 3 books to read. I've read at least 2 of them. One of them I read was called How to Turn Your Ideas into $1 million. I read that in like 2 days at prison camp, and I applied a lot of the ideas now, even into this book. But a lot of times we sat around and played dominoes. A lot of the times, the blacks had control of 2 televisions. One was the sports television, and one was the so-called black television. They were both, one was in the room and one was right next to it. We watched the NBA Finals in there. We watched the Super Bowl in there. They had institutional movies. We all was in that room 10, 15 blocks in one room watching Tron, watching the Avengers, watching even the inauguration at times. One brother made me, we had like a way to make homemade enchiladas. He stole some eggs, he stole some chicken from the kitchen, stole some cheese, fresh cheese, and then Isaac came in and he goes, "Come here." I'm like, "All right, what's up?" And he was kind of aggressive about it. "Come here." I'm like, "What?" "Here, hand me a plate of like homemade enchiladas. Happy birthday." I was like, "Cool." You know, then he got mad because I forgot his birthday later on, but that's different. You know, one gentleman, his name was John. He was a yoga instructor. He also did a lot of metaphysical training and stuff like that. So 3 days a week, he taught the yoga class there, and it was me and maybe one other black along with John. And like I said, he showed me how all these different yoga poses. I actually got super flexible. As I was leaving, he ended up being my like a physical trainer almost. So he was the one that pushed me into working out more and getting me a workout regimen, told me where to run and a lot of stuff. And he actually improved my running from 10 minutes to almost an hour and a half. You know, and all these guys, I'd asked them, "What do you want in return?" They said, "We just want, okay, first of all, we know you're always there for us. Second of all, just keep doing what you're doing." You know, when I worked at the food service, one of the advantages was I get to bring food back. So first thing I did was like, "What do you guys need?" "It's pork chop day. I know y'all want pork chops." So any given day, I'm bringing back 5-6 pork chops to somebody. Somebody, you know, chicken day. Before they started checking everything out, I bring like 5 or 6 chickens back. You know, chicken legs back. You're not supposed to have fresh food or food from the cafeteria in the lockers. It's a shot, which is some sort of disciplinary action, which could result in me going to the hole and being sent to higher institutions. We did it anyway. In fact, I was actually packing a big bowl full of food or whatever, right, to bring back to the place, and the CEO was right there watching me. And I looked back, I was like, "I can dump it out." He was like, "Don't let them see it." I was like, "Who?" I don't know who them was, but they didn't see it. You know, there was another time, you know, just kind of get an idea how friendly the CEOs were, at least towards me. There were certain areas we were supposed to be at, and I went to the food service area because I thought it was quiet. That's where we eat, basically like a cafeteria. So I went there to do some writing because it was quiet. And the CEO walked in and said, "You know you're not supposed to be in here, it's a shot." I was like, "Okay, sorry, my apologies, I don't mean to be out of bounds, I could leave." He goes, "What are you working on?" I showed him a rough draft of a book I was writing. I was like, "This is, you know, book I'm writing and a bunch of other paperwork here. He's gonna read and finish this up." Y'all recall is 8:30. Be sure you're back in time. And walked out. I was in there for a good 45 minutes getting some good writing done. You know, even like the most meanest of CEOs, I actually literally seen him go around picking all these people over here. Then he walked over to me like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just gonna finish this, just writing it real quick." And he looked, I walked off. We had the individuals I call the suits. Basically, they're like lieutenants, wardens, and they were all dressed up in suits. And they're like the only people that come in with suits. Now we're in green collar shirts, green pants, black steel-toe boots. Anybody not wearing that must be either a CEO or someone, a high-end kind of guy, lieutenant or the warden's boss, maybe even somebody from the Senate. They had a raid, went through the camp, and they said they're gonna throw away anything they don't like. I went to the library where my writing was on that. I probably had like 8 journals at a time, all categorizing things I want to do. And they walked in and said, "Everybody out." And he walked out. They went in, messed everything up, came back out. I went back in. Luckily, my writing was still intact. Yeah, so,
You still have that?
yes, I still have them. Still have them.
Question.
Sorry.
I've heard you reference the blacks on several occasions.
Yes.
So my question to you would be, what is that dynamic actually like? Because, those of us on the outside who have never been in that type of environment have this stigma in our head of what that dynamic is actually like. What is it actually like? Is it very tension based?
There was some tension, there's definitely some racial tension going on at the camp. A lot of the whites, there was like two groups of whites there. One group was racist and they didn't like black people at all. So they just stayed away from them. You had another group that didn't really fit in with those whites. So they kind of either fit in with us or they kind of backed off. We had, at a given time, 12 black inmates. Half of which were white collar, half of them were worked done from higher institutions. Because there was so little of us, we just got along. There's this thing where people will stick with family, even though this brother is a knucklehead, even though this brother is no good at all, but you will still stick by him. That is a dynamic that we had at prison camp. There were blacks there we didn't get along with. In fact, we were talking about some blacks because they prefer white people or they talk behind our back. But we wanted that TV room. We wanted one of our brothers to go ahead and enjoy teaches yoga because that's what he believed in. They wanted me to keep writing in the library. They wanted us to strive and do better. So whatever a black person was doing, we were going to go ahead and get it. There was a time a bunch of whites had a problem with the black yoga instructor. 6 or 7 blacks, even 9 blacks walked back there and we just sat there. We just stood there. And the whites were like, okay, we don't want no trouble. We weren't trying to, fight nobody or anything like that. And the blacks were like, well, you didn't say that when he was by himself. So we kind of just stuck together.
So then another question,
Mhm.
and this is totally like off base.
Mm-hmm.
So then, why do you think, and this is just your own personal opinion, it's completely off book.
Mm-hmm.
Then what is the difference in between the togetherness inside and the separation outside? What is the difference there?
I was about to ask the same question.
And how do you think that disconnect translates, if at all?
I'm still trying to answer that question. I've asked that. It's funny, when I walked into prison camp and I saw even the brothers come up, and I read this passage later, brothers came up to me and were like, oh, you're black? Here's some deodorant, here's some soap, here's some honey buns. You know what? You wearing those, this from, you just walked in. Here's some shorts, these are a little more comfortable. Here's a new pair of shoes. Just boom, 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 boom. I'm like, man, you gave it to me like I knew you for 20, 30 years. You know what I mean? The best camaraderie of black people I had was in prison camp. And so I don't understand why it doesn't translate in the real world. I can only theorize, and I could be wrong when I say this. I think in prison camp, we had to be together. We had to sit together. Survival, more or less. If we didn't get along, here's an instance. So I wasn't big on watching TV because I wanted to do my thing. And a lot of blacks were kind of in and out in the television room. So what ended up happening was one of the whites who clearly didn't like us walked in that room, started watching television. Now, here's the problem. The whites had their own television room, another television over here that they shared with the Asians, okay? Essentially, now you had 3 televisions. The whites now had 3 televisions. If we allow that to pursue, the blacks would have 1 television, and to a point where we won't be able to watch television. Now, I'm not big on watching television, but he wants to watch television. So, what they said was, why don't you just read a book from 2 to 4 so he can watch his TV at 4? So that he doesn't take your television. I have to agree to that because, no, I don't want to watch TV. But there's that one time of the year where the Kings will play on TNT. I want to see the Kings play, you know? And
I'm sorry, by the way.
no. You know? But if the Whites had all these televisions, I can't watch it. Now there's no chance in hell I'll watch it. But if I take care of him, he's gonna make sure I watch that Kings game. To a point where brothers came to the library and said, hey man, you know the Kings and Thunder are playing. Come on in here, we gonna watch it. Like, I'm in there. You know, there was times where the blacks said, hey, the Raiders are playing. And even though they knew I was kind of busy, once in a while they gave me updates, the scores. You know what I mean? So why that doesn't translate over here, I can only theorize and say it must not be necessary. I mean, in there, you really can't get along with the whites like you do here. We know some whites we did get along with some of the whites. Out here, I can have a white girlfriend. You know, I could have a whole white world and no one would have anything wrong with it. But in prison camp, if I try to do that same thing, matter of fact, there was a brother who did that. And when he started getting in trouble, we were like, that's not our problem. You sat there and talked about how ghetto we were, how we wasn't this and this and this, and you went over here with the white people because you thought they were better and less, you know, less ghetto. And now you come over here for some help? Nah, you're on your own. So yes, it was survival. Go ahead.
And if I may add, I think the reason why it doesn't translate out here is that out here they've made us realize, or they've sowed the seed of doubt, hatred, division amongst us. And so we haven't come to the point where we say this is something, it's an urgency for us to be together. A good example is with all these killings going on at my job, we came out with a statement, and the statement was not forceful enough. And so it was kind of, everybody had their opinion, and there was a lot of hate on our, we call it circuit, on our website. And so our CEO came out and said and talked about it. And what happened was that we all came together, all the blacks at Intel, we came together and demanded that the CEO, some of it is still going, the CEO make sure that we educate the general public of our co-workers, and also try to make it mandatory to take, you know, ethnic sensitivity classes, because it was like, some of it I was even afraid to read, because here's my white co-worker and say these vicious things about us on, this is work. And so the thing is that when we come together, or when we forget about what the world portrays to us and say this is an urgent, we need to be together, like it's survival, then that's the only thing. We've been marginalized, we've been, you know, labeled this or that, and that is what is not making us, you know, stick together. So that's, you know, that's what I can say about that.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Sorry, I was just...
No, it was a good question. Good question. Yes, ma'am. It's located in a community called Herlong, and it is about an hour from Reno. So on the California side you have Herlong, and the next biggest city that you would know of is Reno. So it's right there on the border. To get there, I had to go through the Nevada border and come back through the border. Come through Reno to get there, because there's some mountain range right there along that side. Yeah. So, any other questions?
I don't know if I heard earlier. What was you doing in the prison camp? What was your job?
I had two jobs there. The first job I had was at the powerhouse. And what I did there was I checked the water, made sure the water wasn't too hard or too soft. So I tested the water with the pH level of the water and the acid in the water. Because the water at Herlong was super hard. A lot of calcium and other minerals in there. So I basically made sure that it wouldn't get too hard or too soft or anything like that. Okay. Then I quit that job because I just wanted to focus on my writing career, and I worked at the food service area where I was basically serving the inmates their lunches and dinners.
Did you earn a degree in chemistry in between there?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I earned nothing.
Engineering job.
Environmental engineering, chemistry, none of those?
No. Actually, it was super easy. I just made sure I just put some water in a tube, put some chemicals in it, and then shake it up. Return the color. Compare it to this color. Okay, there it is. Wrote it down. Boom.
Oh,
Wow, they don't
interesting.
let you check against the pH scale or anything?
I had a pH scale check too. That was it. And I just wrote the report. The whole thing took maybe 15 minutes.
Wow.
You know?
Interesting.
And, you know, like I said, Isaac thought that I was smart to do that. And I'm looking like, this is elementary. But then again, I forgot what I'm dealing with. And so I saw his argument that, okay, I get it. So, yes.
How often did your family and friends come to visit?
My mom visited me twice. I think 6 months, from 6 months apart. I saw my aunt once. And I talked to my parents at least once a week over the phone. Emailed them routinely, and most of my correspondence to family and friends was through email or the telephone. Email was actually cheaper, actually. So yeah, we did have to pay for it. Let me expand on that. On my parents' end, it was called Core Links. And that's where you receive the communications from the loved ones. Okay, and it's free for them unless you want the mobile app. I think the mobile app was like $6 a month, something like that. Okay. But on my end, it was called True Links. It cost me 5 cents a minute to read or send an email. Okay. So I click this button, I go into this area, and it costs 5 cents just to be in there. Yeah. So once I finish the email, hit send, it goes through a server, gets read to make sure there's nothing incriminating in there, and then my parents would get it, or the loved ones would get it. They could take 2 hours for you to receive my email.
And you are charged for every minute of that 2 hours?
No, I'm only charged for typing the email and reading the email. Yeah. Now, as far as the phone calls go, phone calls were, I think they were like $7 for 15 minutes or something like that. And by 15 minutes, I mean exactly 15 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was times where, okay, so we pick up the phone and my mom would say, hello, you're getting a collect call from, or this call is from a federal institution. Okay, do you accept? She says, yeah. And then the girl says something else. So, you know, we're talking like this, just telling her how my day. By the way, this call's from a federal institution, right in the middle of the conversation. Okay? And then we keep talking more, and then click. 15 minutes are up. And it literally just goes dead silent. Yeah. So that was the first conversation. I was not allowed to make collect calls. So like I couldn't call you and have you pay for it. I had to pay for it. If I didn't have money on my books, I couldn't make a phone call.
So is every inmate given the opportunity to make money?
Yes,
Okay.
every inmate has a possibility. Now, when I went to the food service area, I made $10 a month.
What?
Not an hour,
That's not enough to pay for.
a month.
That cannot pay for the
Read it out.
7-minute phone call.
Wow.
Yeah. The most I made at Federal Prison Camp was $83. And like I said earlier, the people who were making $100, that was considered balling. Okay? So I had money saved up at home. My parents were putting money on my books. That's how I was able to call them as much as I did. And after a while, even that, I kind of cut back to like an hour. Once a week. You know, just kind of stretch the money out. And also, we had to pay for our own commissary. So, shaving cream, detergent, soap, whatever we wanted, we had to pay for it. Through that money we get from the job. Yes.
You spent 17 months in there,
Yes.
and then, of course, you know, you was released. How was it, you know, coming out of there, readjusting to life on the outside?
You know what's funny? I think the first few weeks was fool's gold. I went to the halfway house, which was still part of my sentence, in May 2012. Within 2 weeks, I had a job working for a temp agency called Acrobat Outsourcing. It's a catering service, a culinary service where I do catering or cooking or dishwashing or whatever, right? I was good enough to get almost 40 hours a week. That job transferred to Sacramento. Didn't quite get 40 hours a week. It was sporadic. Sometimes 20, sometimes 50. And you just know what to predict it, okay? But I'm coming home, I had, of course, a job. My parents kept my car and some of my clothes. And I had a little bit of money saved up to where I could get a studio in Oak Park. All this happened within 2 weeks. So I'm thinking, okay, the adjustment was fine. That same month I couldn't pay rent. Within 30 days, I realized how inconsistent the job was going to be and immediately went into a depression. Trying to decide if I should get my own business or go look for a job. Look for a job, it was, hit and miss. I either the fact that I was a felon, or the fact that I had a restaurant experience, or I was overqualified. Tried to find better housing, had a problem with credit. I had poor credit because of the foreclosures, and the student loans went into default. So I eventually got hired at William Jessup University in Roseville, living in Oak Park. Okay, but they hired me, so I had to take it. And my PO said he was proud that I was actually had a job. He said he wasn't worried about me having a job. However, I'm washing dishes, $9.75 an hour. I have a bachelor's degree in English with concentrated creative writing from Sac State. It is a blessing to have a studio, a car, and a job. Don't get me wrong. But there's something about being an educated black man washing those dishes that did not sit with me. I tried to be as patient with it as possible. I tried to be as appreciative as possible because I know somebody in my situation is praying for that opportunity. I still had a hard time with it. Trying to get a job at the state. It's a crapshoot if you have no problems whatsoever. But with the felony, I can't work for CalSTRS, I can't work for Department of Corrections, I can't work for the DMV because my felony involves credit and they don't want me dealing with sensitive, it deals with fraud, so I can't deal with sensitive information. So it seems like, it feels like 80% of the state jobs are null and void. I can't even deal with those. I tried dealing with the temp agency as long as I can, and I was constantly in and out of unemployment, going on unemployment on a regular basis. I ended up losing my apartment, moved in with my parents, and I paid them rent every month, regardless of my situation. But I still had trouble maintaining everything and investing into this, what will be this book. What ended up happening was I ended up finding a job called Land Ocean in Roseville, bussing tables at it was a high-end restaurant. I can make anywhere from $30 to $100 a day, plus the hourly wages of $10 an hour, $19 an hour. During the holidays, I made so much money, I was able to finish paying what will be Subprime Felon. Getting it edited, getting it basically squared away and ready to go. Okay. I got the job at Land Ocean in August 2015. I was released in 2012. It took me 3 years to find that job. And I was looking for jobs, and yeah, I admit I was really consistent about wanting a job, but it still took me 3 years to find it. But even working with Land Ocean in Roseville, it turned out that they felt I was only qualified to bus tables. They felt like I didn't have the people skills or the drive to be a server. Servers make almost double the money that a lot of the busers do. So, and also I realized that where I was going to be as a server, I would actually lose money. Because as a busser, I'm almost guaranteed $50 a day, which is important if I'm going from Elk Grove to Roseville 5-6 days a week. Some servers were not making $5. At least the position I was going to be in wasn't making $5. After a few incidents with management, some of which involving racism, I went to another job called Dingus McGee's. And I thought that it was a promised land almost. I thought I was going to make the same amount of money as at Orlando Ocean. Turns out, not only did I make less, but the racism was just as bad as Orlando Ocean. Luckily, with the help of my parents again, I got a job working for Lyft. And that's where I'm at now. So that was my adjustment.
That leads me into a question, if I can.
Yeah.
So what is the mindset? Like, I couldn't imagine, right? Because I mean, obviously I'm educated like you. So I couldn't imagine, what is that struggle like, knowing that there are jobs that you're clearly qualified for that you can't get because of your past. And then the jobs that you do get, that you're overqualified for, you're seen as less than because of your past. So how do you balance that mindset? Because I imagine that there would be something that's off kilter or not even killed at that point. So how do you balance that mindset?
Like I tell you, when I do hit a certain level of when I go down far enough, I tend to snap back up. And I remind myself that I was blessed in prison. I turned that into an advantage. I could turn this to the advantage too. It's washing dishes, but think about it. I could go see a real woman before a change, you know what I mean? I could go to Oakland and hang out with my boy. I can go call the young professional and go hang out with them right now. So, yes, it is frustrating being an educated black man washing dishes. But I have to find silver linings wherever I can and find something to be appreciative of. The fact that I could call you, call him right now. The fact that I could talk to you longer than 15 minutes is a blessing. So I started with those things. Mm-hmm. And then I started realizing, like, wait a minute, the book is done now. This is around 2015. The book is done now. How many of my colleagues finished a book that are equally as educated as me? That, not to be conceited, but it helped me as far as confidence go, self-confidence go, like, wait a minute, I'm not this dishwasher. I am not this busser. I am not some stereotype that this white person thinks I am. Okay? I accomplished something that not many people can do. And being that it's a written word, I am working my degree, which a lot of my friends are not doing. So, I cannot look at myself as this dishwasher. Mm-hmm. This is just the card that I'm dealt with. But somehow this is going to be an advantage at some point. Now you're moving with your parents and now the money's going up. It's like, okay, well, here's the advantage of this. Now I have enough money to turn this book into reality. I can now put everything I've been dreaming about since 6th grade, it can now actually happen. You know what I mean? So that's how I did it. I just looked for silver linings. Even though people were saying, you know what, you're making things up. You're trying to make the best out of nothing. But I'm like, all I have is this. I gotta make it work. You know? I refuse to be that guy to lay around and afraid to live. You know, or afraid to die and just get by. You know, I wasn't raised that way. To me, that was just as hard. If this is on my plate, I could probably put this up with it. So, if the prison thing didn't work out, if finding some sort of inspiration along the way didn't work out, then I will look at different family members and be like, you know what, my uncle went through this, which is similar to what I'm going through. Let me take a peek out of his book and see if that works. You know? But yeah, I was chronically looking for some sort of inspiration, even if I had to make something up. That's how I did it. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask what you're saying about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've known you 6 years.
Probably longer than that, yeah.
and I've watched you go through this, and I write about you all the time. You don't know that, but I admire how you, how well you transition. And I know that I've seen your downtimes, and sometimes I'm like, well, I could contribute to that, but I've seen it, and I sincerely, I just don't know too many people that go through what you have gone through. You owned it. Not only did you own it, but you just turned it around. You're not like walking around ashamed of it. You own it, and then you're making something out of nothing. I mean, I hear felons complaining all the time. I can't get a job. But none of that stopped you. You just kept going. You just kept trying to make it work, whatever you had to do. And I know it was hard because I watched you and I listened to you and I see it. But I think it's fantastic. I think you are fantastic just for making something out of what people would say is nothing. But to me, I'm just like, this dude came out of prison, and within 2 weeks, he had like an apartment, car, job. I mean, I'm just like, people have never been to prison and don't have an apartment, car, and job.
Right.
You know, I mean, you really came out, and I'm just extremely proud of you, and I hope that your star continues to rise.
Thank you. And then I want to add one more thing to that. While I was trying to figure out how to get out of the depression, I learned that I read an article on Google that said that one way to get out of depression is to give to somebody else. It was kind of one of those reap what you sow kind of things. So I think what helped was doing community service. There was just something about sitting around a bunch of first graders reading about superheroes and flying around. It's like, man, they were so grateful. I spent an hour reading to them, and I got all this gratitude back. And I'm like, okay, I can feed off this now. You know, I'm reading to a kid. This kid thinks I'm amazing. That helped. Going over to this old lady, and she had trouble with something, I don't remember, but I just helped her out. And all this gratitude I got back in return. So it seemed like the more I gave, the more I got back. And that helped when I went to work. You know, the thing about being in the restaurant industry, it feels like it's give, give, give. There's a servitude thing, and sometimes I do feel like I'm the, you know, house Negro in the master's house.
Yikes.
But once I feel that way, I remember that little kid thought it was cool the way I read that book. And that kind of canceled out those negative feelings. So, which is why it was so important to me to kind of constantly give. And I felt like the more I gave, the more it helped my mental health. So, yes.
Do you plan on helping other felons come out?
So I wrote a idea out. I'll call it a bids proposal, but I'm not sure how it worked out. The idea was to create a temporary agency to where once you come home from prison or go on probation, you would automatically get a job. Now it'll be a temporary job so that the employer won't have that much, so the job won't have that much on it. But if that felon does really well at that job, he get hired on, much like I did at some of the jobs that I worked at. The problem with my idea was they felt, the pastor that I talked to said, you should focus more on building your platform, building yourself up, and then come back to the idea at a later date. I will go back to that later on, but I'm going to take their advice and focus on this. I also work with the organization called Live Free, which is affiliated with Sacramento areas congregation together. And I helped with Prop 47. I was doing the calling people, reminding them, educating them about Prop 47. I think I did a few walks where I was going around telling people in the area why they should vote for Prop 47 and the benefits of Prop 47. I've also talked with Live Free about things that they can do to help felons, such as housing and employment, particularly mental health, which is another big thing, you know, what I'm dealing with. But I do need to do more, and I want to do more, definitely. Anyone else? So, let me, actually, this is a good place to end it, actually. So, but yeah, one thing I've learned about being in this, and this is one reason why I keep saying that going to federal prison camp was like the best thing that ever happened to me, was it made me appreciate everything. You know, talking to my parents for longer than 15 minutes, being there to actually see them, to actually give, to appreciate black people more. Even the cool white people I can talk to now, I can actually appreciate them and not feel like there's any kind of racism going on with respect to what's going on in the world. Even to sit here. And I think it was because of that experience, it made me want to understand the power of appreciation. And not only how it's benefit me, but how it's benefit everyone else. And I think because of my experience with prison camp, I think I'm going to try to take that further and further. So, with that, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to me talk all this time.